Hello, fellow celiacs. So, you've been invited to a wedding. Normally, this would be an exciting time. Your friends are finally tying the knot. You've been there for all the big milestones in their relationship. And now this. Now you just have to figure out what you're going to wear. Oh, and fill out the reply card. Uh-oh. About this time, you're probably thinking, should you even go? After all, this is someone else's party, and you probably can't imagine being so presumptuous as to think that they'd accommodate you, what with all of the other planning that goes into a wedding ceremony. I mean, if you tried planning a wedding, even if you haven't, it's a well-known fact that planning a wedding is one of the most stressful things a person can undertake. And do you really want to add to that? So what do? Other than eat before you go and Irish exit before they bring out the cake. Well, I'll tell you what I've done in the past. How about that? This past summer, I went to two very different kinds of weddings. One, a traditional American wedding at a token wedding venue just outside the city, complete with the whole 3-course meal, wedding cake cliche, and tons of dancing. The other wedding was my cousin's wedding in Utah outside Salt Lake City at a campground in the Uintas. They're very outdoorsy. The first one, the food was provided by the venue and we were given a menu of choices, complete with vegan and gluten-free options, and when it came time for the cake, we noshed on a plate of fruit. Not fantastic, but at least we had something to do while the bride and groom were shoving cake in each other's faces. In both cases, I made sure I at least talked to the couple up front about what the options would be so I would know what to expect. It's important to do this in a way that respects the couple's own choices. Remember, they are hosting sometimes hundreds of people, and unless they also have dietary restrictions themselves or close family and friends who do, they don't have a lot of time to make sure you're going to be taken care of. So get the lay of the land, and if it doesn't look good, make your own accommodations. That can include bringing snacks and/or eating before you go, or even planning beforehand to leave early and have a meal somewhere else nearby. If you want to really dig in though, once you know the venue, call them yourself and find out from them how knowledgeable they are about alternative diets and food allergies. Most of these places are incentivized to accommodate allergies and dietary restrictions because of how likely it is that they will come across them. Think about it. Most people will either get married or attend a wedding at some point in their lifetime, and it's a good chance that a lot of those people will have some food they can't eat without getting sick. But that doesn't necessarily mean that these places always get it right. So do call them in advance if you can get a hold of their contact info. When I asked my friend about the venue, he told me that since there were people in his family and even some friends who'd be attending with dietary restrictions, they had made sure they picked a place with options for everyone. But don't assume this will always be the case. Always call ahead if you can. Another thing to watch out for though, there was also a cocktail hour at that first wedding that was buffet style. They had a few different stations serving different hot things, a meat carver, some Greek food, but for the most part, it was meats, cheeses, and fruits right next to breads and crackers. Now, as with anything that is so clearly prepared in a shared kitchen, you'll want to basically assume that everything has been touched by gluttony hands and is therefore not safe for you to eat. Don't be lulled into a false sense of security because you're hungry and it looks separated. Maybe pull someone aside from the staff and ask if they can plate up something for you from the kitchen that is safe and hasn't been touched. Or rely on those snacks I told you to bring. When I went to my cousin's wedding, it was a bit of a different story. They were just going to have a taco truck there after the ceremony, so cool. But I knew a place like this probably not as accommodating as a wedding venue. So because of this, and because of the fact that I knew my cousin was doing a lot of the planning himself and was a tad overwhelmed, I actually contacted the taco truck myself through their website and asked them all of the questions instead of bothering my cousin. If you find yourself needing to do this, check out my video on eating out at restaurants because there's a lot of info there that you can apply to a scenario like this. Now, because this place was not set up for gluten-free diets, they told me, in a very odd voicemail, that I should bring my own food. Not the answer I was hoping for, but this was another scenario in which it paid to plan ahead. Because I knew the food would not be safe, I planned to bring my own food, and actually ended up eating it in the car while waiting for the ceremony to start, because it was pouring rain the whole time. It actually made for a rather beautiful ceremony, not a dry eye in the house, and I was able to enjoy it because I had made my own tacos, and because I also brought my own gluten-free booze to the party. Priorities, am I right? So that's it. You shouldn't have to miss out on the ceremony because you're scared of the food. And if you're in the process, by the way, of planning your own gluten-free wedding and you're kind of overwhelmed, My friend Jess from the blog Tasting Meditation actually has a Facebook group she moderates on gluten-free wedding planning. I'll link to that so you can check it out and get some helpful tips and reviews. So if you found this video helpful, please consider liking and subscribing. And remember, there is life after gluten.